3-9, it's so easy to just be down in the dumps about Boston College football. And believe me, I get it. But on today's show, I'm going to tell you why I believe and why I think the people who are making preseason polls don't have it right.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. This is Locked On BC. I'm your host, AJ Black. Thank you all for listening. For all of you who have listened daily to us, thank you so much. We're going to talk about the team today. We're going to step away from recruiting. We have some good episodes in the last couple of weeks that have really got into recruiting, so check those out if you want to check that out as well. All right, so BC football is heading into a major season coming up, and one that really is going to define the tenure of Jeff Hafley. So, you know, we all know the story at this point. This is nothing new. You had 2020 was a weird year. It was COVID. You know, you had all those restrictions and all that nonsense. It was a weird year. They go 6-5. 2021, they lose Djokovic. They get stuck with Dennis Grosel. They go 6-6. They miss a bowl game because of COVID. Last year was a complete disaster because they lost their entire offensive line and most of their backups. They go 3-9. Really no progress. You haven't seen the team go in the right direction, but there's been a story to tell in each season. And I don't want to come off as an excuse, but that's kind of where they're at, right? You are what your record says you are, right? Now we're heading into 2023. And you're heading into a season that you're hoping will show improvements over last year and hopefully market improvements, because you look at the schedule, you're playing 4 out of conference games against non-Power 5 opponents. You avoid Clemson this year. You avoid Wake Forest and NC State. That's all positive, right? You get better, more, favorable matchups than you would have in years past. But you look at all the preseason predictions. Already we're not even into July and they're already coming out. And they are all negative. And at first, I want to start this off before folks say that I'm being I'm way too maroon and gold today in terms of my views. This is my line all along, and I will continue to say that I will stick with what I'm saying. I want to show you, we did on the ACC, the Locked On Network, all the conference shows did a poll, and they put where they thought different teams ranked, right? So they did the conference poll. Here is the top 5. I'll show you the top 5 teams. I'm sure you can guess that Boston College is not on it, but here's the top 5 teams: Clemson, Florida State, UNC, NC State, and Duke. Not a huge surprise there. I mean, you could argue that maybe Pitt should be up there, or some people might say Louisville should be up there. But I think what folks want to know is, where is Boston College? They are 11th. They were ranked 11th. They are above Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, and Virginia. Okay. Again, you have to play your games and win to get better than this. But my point is this. I think that these polls are not going to be representative of what happens for Boston College this year. And here's why. When you look at the issue with this team last year, the issue was the offensive line. That was problem 1 through 7. And my thoughts watching that was, it was so atrocious that it resonated with everything. And I feel like a broken record, but hey, some of you might be joining us for the first time, so I want to make sure that I reiterate what I think. When you can't run the ball, when you can't block, you can't throw the ball, you're getting your quarterback killed. You're getting off the field on 3 and outs constantly because you can't stay on the field. Your defense gets taxed. Your special teams gets taxed. Your offense is a mess because it can't do anything. It impacts everything. So I get it when the Locked On Network puts BC at 11th, or Pro Football Focus had them dead last. Because when you put this, if you're basing what BC is going to do in 23 based on the statistics of what you saw in 2022, then yes, of course they're going to be the worst team in the conference. But that's not what's on page. That's not what's going to be showing up in August and in September. Jeff Hafley, I think, in my personal opinion, did a really solid job of addressing a lot of what the issues were on this team. First of all, when you have you were playing last year, converted defensive linemen, guys that hadn't played offensive line in years, guys playing out of position. You're bringing, first of all, your biggest transfer is a guy that you prevented from going someplace else in Christian Mahogany. That is the biggest get for BC. I cannot understate how big it is that Christian Mahogany is back. This is not like you're just plugging in a guy that's played like Kyle Hergel on the other side or Zach Logan Taylor, right? You are plugging in an all-American guard. That is, I don't think folks are understanding. You are replacing a guy like, no offense to Dwayne Alec, a guy that hadn't played offensive line in 2 years, or had played spotty because he was a defensive lineman, or whatever you want to say, or guys that were, on the back end of the rotation with an potential All-American. That is huge. And it's not just huge for Mahogany. It's going to make Ozzy Trapillo better. It's going to make Drew Kendall better, because those are the guys that are going to line up probably right next to him, right? So you fix that. You fix it. And then you add in, as I said, Kyle Hergel, who is a multi-year starter and solid. And I think that he's going to, from what I've read and heard, is going to be the strongest offensive lineman on this team. You have 4 out of your 5 guys now. I think Trapillo made steps, and I think Drew Kendall made steps. And when you add those guys together, the offensive line is going to be fine. You're going to see a different team this year, folks. And I think when you saw that John McNulty was not the answer at offensive coordinator. You replaced him with, Steve Shemko, who, yes, there's questions about, but you pair him with Rob Chudzinski, who is a longtime experienced coach. That should fix some issues. And folks will get on me about this. You will also get back Matt Applebaum. And I know folks are down on him, but the offensive line, when you look at Pro Football Focus in 2021, was good. It wasn't what people think it is. They were graded high. So I think the offensive line will be okay. If they're okay, then that takes the pressure off Moorhead. That takes the pressure off the running game. You can actually have a running game this time. Your defense will be able to sit for a while. They're not going to have their backs pressed against the wall, and then those games will come to you. The biggest question mark will be the coaching staff. Will they be able to handle that? In a moment, I'm going to tell you what the same pollsters put for Jeff Hafley. You're going to want to hear where he landed on their list as well. But before we do that, I want to tell you all about our friends over at FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets, up to $200. That's right. Just $20 and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to over-under to who you think is going to get the first home run, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no better place to bet on MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today and visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, the official betting partner of Major League Baseball. Thank you all for listening, and for our live audience out there, thank you all for joining us. If you want to become part of our live audience, we are usually right now and during the off season, during June and July, we're doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We'll be recording on Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, usually around 9:00. But I usually put it up on Twitter. Get up here and get in the comments section. We love to see you. So, the other piece about the this year is the coaching staff. And as I said in the first segment, Jeff Hafley has to prove it this year. He has to show that he is more than just a coordinator, that he can run a program, that he can run in game and make the right decisions in game that can get BC over that hump, that can make him more than Steve Addazio. And he is a young coach. Was he 40? I think he's 42 years old. And he's learning, and he admits that. He talks about it. We've heard him talk about it. We had him on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he talked about some of the things that he's learning. I think this is going to be a major turning point for Hafley this year. And what we're going to have to see is, you're in year 4 now. Can you take that next step? Are you able to evolve as a coach? There's been plenty of coaches that have struggled to start their career off. I look at the top 5 right now. Dave Clawson, number 3. If you go back and look at Dave Clawson's first couple of years, he really struggled when he got to Wake Forest, and now he's one of the best coaches in the country. He's number 3 on here, but he does more. He does the most with the least, I think, in the ACC. And can Hafley do that too? There's no reason he can't turn that corner this year. But again, you have to prove it on the field. So you're seeing our poll. This is the Locked On ACC poll, voted on by ACC Locked On shows. We have one for every team, I think, other than Wake Forest. I don't think there's a Wake Forest one, which is ironic, right? Where does Jeff Hafley land? Where do you guys think he lands? If you said last, you're wrong. He finished 11th, just like the football team. He's nearer to the bottom, but not all the way to the bottom. He finished above Brent Pry, Brent Key, and Tony Elliott. So he's above all of the new coaches that are just starting off, other than Mike Elko, who obviously he had a huge year for Duke last year. And I think folks are really excited to see what he can do in year 2. Is this the correct spot for him? Yeah. I think the other 3 coaches have proven far less than Hafley at this point. Tony Elliott hasn't done anything. Brent Key and Brent Pry from Georgia Tech and Virginia Tech, the Georgia Tech head coach is just going into his first year. You may even put him above Hafley because he did have a good solid end to last year with some top 25 wins. The one coach that's above Hafley on this that I always laugh at, and I hope there's Miami fans that show up, and I don't know how to get this tag because I know Miami fans just blow up at everything, is Mario Cristobal. What has he done? Why is he 8th? Mario Cristobal has done nothing. And yeah, he has plenty of potential and he recruits well, but his team was an embarrassment last year for a team that did what they were supposed to do what they were supposed to do. He's 8th. Get out of here with that. Mario Cristobal should not be there. Dabo obviously should be number 1. I am a firm believer in Mike Norvell and Dave Clawson. Mac Brown, I guess, at number 4, though. I don't know. Other than him being historically good head coach, I don't know. I might put Dave Doran in front of him at this point because I think UNC kind of underperforms a lot too. So that's just kind of my thoughts. So those are my thoughts. Do you agree with me? We have more of these coming up. We'll on days that there's not any real big news, I'll go over some of these polls because there's ones on where we rank the fan bases. You'll want to hear where BC has landed. You'll hear ones about our basketball team and all sorts of other good stuff. So hopefully you enjoyed this. It was a different take. There's not a lot of recruiting news out there right now, other than I got a new crystal ball out. Go over to Eagle Insider. You can check out who I put that crystal ball on. You might want to know that. In a moment, we're going to switch gears and go to basketball because there's some basketball news that just came out I want to talk about, and I want to relate it to a bigger topic that's been going on online, which is BC and UMass. I want to get into all of that in just a moment. This is Locked On BC. AJ Black. I am on fire today. I don't know where this energy is coming from, but I am so excited to talk to all of you. This is we're doing 3 days a week right now, but we're getting closer and closer to college football season, and I'm really excited to get back into hopefully a better season than we had last year. If you have not done so already, subscribe and hit lock. Wherever you get your podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube, and there's a ton of you listening right now, hit the like button. It does help us in the algorithms, and I hope you recommend us to friends. So, basketball time. BC basketball announced they haven't announced it, but the other team did. There was an announcement of a new series that's going to come out between BC and another school in out-of-conference play in basketball. And it was a team that I haven't seen BC play ever because they haven't. And it's the Citadel, located in Charleston, South Carolina. And first you look at that and you say to yourself, why the heck is BC playing Citadel? They were Ken Palm near the bottom of the country last year. They're nowhere near Boston College. They're not a team with any like past success. What's going on here? Well, the answer is staring right in your face. If you're on YouTube, it's Earl Grant. Earl Grant was an assistant there. This is maybe, a kind of a give back to his school, and a trip to South Carolina is not the worst part of this, because the weirder part of this story is when you play in college basketball, it's not like college football where you have like a 1-1 or even a 2-1, where maybe like you play like a lower conference team twice at your home and once in theirs. This is a 2-1 in college basketball. College basketball is usually the bigger conference team gets all the home games. Like, you don't ever see BC and UNH play at UNH. You never see BC and Holy Cross play at Holy Cross. But this one, BC is going to travel to Citadel in Charleston this year on November 10th. They've already set the date. That's interesting. And honestly, I don't mind it, especially if BC isn't paying $3 million or whatever the obscene amount of money it is to host those games. Like, maybe maybe that's a different way to look at this, right? Instead of paying to wipe the floor with some of these teams at home, or like that's what you're supposed to be doing, right? I'm not saying BC is going to do that. You save that money for other things like paying your staff and stuff like that. And then maybe now and then you go and play someplace else. Fine with me. I mean, 3 less games where you have 600 people in the stands doesn't really matter that much. Maybe it's a different way of looking at, the economics of college basketball. But so honestly, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with playing Citadel. Is it a game that's going to excite the fan base? No. Is it anything that's special? No. But this goes back to a bigger point, and this is something that keeps coming up over and over again whenever BC announces a game against Richmond, a game against St. John's, a game against Citadel. Why aren't the Eagles playing UMass? Why? And I don't know the details of why these games are not happening, but I can tell you this: BC basketball needs to play UMass. Like, if you're down to a game between Citadel or UMass, you play UMass every day, including Sunday, because at least when you play the Minutemen, there's some interest there. It was only I don't even remember when the last game was. It feels like it's been a decade. It probably has been a decade since BC used to have those, Battle of the Commonwealth, where they would play sometimes at TD Garden. They play, at Conti. They play at UMass. Play those games again. At least you get fans in the door. There's going to be excitement for those games just because it's a local matchup. I have nothing. I don't care about UMass basketball, but I do care about exciting games. I get much more excited about seeing a BC and UMass game than I would see BC and Stonehill or BC and UNH or whatever, right? So I think I've said this on a past episode. I really wish BC would focus more on the local teams for their out-of-conference schedule. And there may be things behind the scenes I don't know about, but I'm just telling you my thoughts, right? There are so many talented basketball teams in multiple conferences around the New England area that BC could play that are much more engaging than, some of the teams they've played in the past, like South Florida, or, they play some of these like mindless out of conference games. It's just, they don't mean anything. And yeah, I get it. You want to travel, but like, Have you watched what their schedules look like during seasons because of classes? Yeah, they get to go to South Carolina, but a lot of times it's go to South Carolina, practice, play the game, maybe sleep over, practice again, play the game, and leave. They get a little time, but it's not like that big of a deal for those types of trips. Like during, obviously like those multi-team, visits, like where they went to the Virgin Islands, those are big. But some of these mid-season games, they're not. They're traveling so much, they're not going to have time to see the sights. So at the end, BC needs to play UMass. I think that is, one I would love to see. Harvard would be another one. Honestly, Northeastern or BU. Yeah, like get some of these and rotate them in. You don't have to play UMass every year, but a game against Harvard one year, a game against UMass, a game against Lowell. Mix it up. Don't just. It feels like you're playing the. I don't want to call them the cream puffs because BC loses to them a lot, but like the Holy Crosses, the Stonehills. This year it's Central Connecticut and Holy Cross. Mix it up. Get some of these other teams that have some talent on the schedule. I think it's good for college basketball. It's good for Boston College. It's good for New England sports. That's my thoughts. I don't know what you guys think about it, but you can hit me up in the comments. All right, folks, I am going to head out. Thank you all so much for listening. Follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. And if you are not already, become a subscriber on Eagle Insider. It's 50% off for the next couple days. I see a ton of you have been signing up. We've been breaking records, and I want you to be there too. Get in. It's $53 for the entire year. 12 months of BC news and scoops. I've been scooping everybody. Get over there. $53. Sign up now. I hope to see you over there. Take care, everyone. We'll see you again soon.